Hey everyone, welcome back. Deadly Assault resetted a few days ago, and this time we got a brand new boss in this new rotation, which honestly I find it super fun. And I know that some of you are probably thinking, oh, but this is just the Yi Xuan boss. It is not actually. As long as you understand the enemy mechanics, you can play around it and get your 20,000 points without problems. So if you're struggling to get your 6, maybe 9 stars, this video is going to help you understand how to approach team building and also how to deal with enemy and their mechanics. So the very first thing that we're going to talk about is the buffs, because these can make or break or completely change how you approach your build. And for this time, we have Meditation, Interrupt, and Transformation Charge. Meditation is pretty much the Yi Xuan buff. It gives a maximum HP. Only Yi Xuan can use this in an offensive way. Everyone else is just a defensive stat. You also get ultimate damage 40% and ether and ice damage 40% as well after using your ultimate. You also get some energy adrenaline generation rate, which is okay-ish. Other units can use this one. Well, they can, especially like burst, ether, and ice DPS units. However, honestly, I wouldn't recommend that much. Interrupt is the overall best buff, and it's a really good buff as long as you are a sustained DPS unit. Interrupt is really good because it gives you basic attack, dodge, counter, EX, special, and dash attack 30% damage. It's really good for pretty much any sustained DPS because you'll be using all of these. And whenever you trigger a perfect dodge or a perfect assist, you know this evasive or defensive assist that you trigger when swapping on the yellow flash on the enemy, you get 10% attack and 10% crit damage up to 3 stacks for 15 seconds. The problem here is that each stack has its own duration, and this means that most of the time during the stun window, you're going to be losing stacks. It gets even worse if you don't start your stun window with 3 stacks of this buff. So, as you can see, it's not a good Deadly Assault rotation for burst DPS units, but for sustained DPS units, just go for Interrupt. It's going to work wonders. Finally, we have the classic anomaly buff. They always try to put something here. This time we got increased the build up for physical and ether, and you also get, of course, some anomaly proficiency as well. Not to mention that whenever you trigger an anomaly on the enemy, you're going to reduce their defense by 10%, and they also take increased damage from all attribute anomalies, a total of 30% increased damage. It lasts for 20 seconds. It's really easy for you to keep this with 100% uptime. So, really good buff. Of course, being physical and ether, it means that, for example, Jane, Vivian can highly benefit from this buff right here, but you don't need to necessarily use Vivian here. You could also use, for example, Nicole with a more anomaly-focused build, because remember that defense reduction effects, they stack on top of each other, and the more you stack, the better it becomes. So this means that, for example, Nicole, it can benefit from this one and stack even further, so you can get more value from the defense shred effect, okay? So yeah, these are the buffs, okay? Keep this in mind, pretty much good for all sustained DPS units. Interrupt is going to be the MVP for this rotation. Meditation is pretty much the Yi Xuan buff, and Transformation Charge whenever you're playing a more anomaly-focused team. Okay, this is all you need to keep in mind. Now, that's enough talking about buffs. Let's talk a little bit about the bosses, how you should approach team composition as well, and how to play against them. Okay, so the very first one that you're going to fight this time is Miasma Priest. Miasma Priest is a brand new boss which is weak to ether and also resistant to ice. This means that units like G1 and Yi Xuan, they are going to perform pretty well here. Vivian, not so much. And the reason why Vivian is not going to perform that well is because Miasma Priest gets anomaly build-up resistance and also takes increased crit damage whenever they switch their phase. And what exactly is switching the phase? You know, when just as you start the fight and Miasma Priest is going to float a little bit in the air and summon some kind of circle ball on top of their head. This is the phase switch, which they do every few seconds. And when it comes to performance points, you need to do 3 defensive assists within 3 seconds to get a total of 1,000 performance points. And I know it sounds really hard, almost impossible, but during the 3rd and during the Miasma phase, you're going to get a lot of good windows to do all of these defensive assists. I'm going to explain this later because you can easily get 5,000 performance points without a problem against Miasma Priest, okay? So, as soon as you start the fight, Miasma Priest is going to start going into the first phase. And this is one of the most infuriating phases because the very first attack they do when they finish switching the phase is kind of weirdly timed because as soon as the red flash appears on the screen, you are already taking damage. So, try to dodge a little bit earlier on this first dash, okay? Because otherwise you end up taking this hit and knock back it's really bad, okay? So just try to get used to the animation and dodge a little bit earlier. It's going to make your life way easier. After they finish the phase attack, because each phase has a different attack, they're going to start doing some general attacks towards you. These are just really aggressive and general slashes. Some of them has good defensive assist windows for you. The most important attack here that I highly recommend you to keep an eye is the slow sword slash. You know, Miasma Priest is going to summon a sword and it's going to do a really slow slash in a wide area in front of it. This one has a bit of a weird hitbox and timing to dodge because you don't get red flashes as well. But one thing that I noticed is that if you are a little bit further away from the boss, it's easier for you to dodge or trigger a parry using, you know, EX special skills, things like this. So if you're struggling to dodge this attack, maybe moving a little bit further away from the boss is going to help you. After some time has passed, Miasma Priest is going to enter the second phase. And the second phase is probably the easiest one because all it's going to do is explode the ground around you. So pretty much just keep looking at the ground, then dodge at the right moment. There you go, you get your free dodge, and there you go, it's going back to do some general attacks towards you. After some time, once again, it's going to enter the third phase, which is the one that I said you can get a lot of performance points. How it works, Miasma Priest is going to start a really aggressive combo towards you, and all you need to do is keep spamming your swap button. The more defensive assist units you have on your team, the better for you. For example, right here you can see that I'm using 3 defensive assist units and I can get a total of 3,000 performance points on a single phase. No attack button, no assist follow-up, okay? And there you go, you're going to get all of your defense assists, a lot of performance points, not to mention a lot of days as well. But most importantly, try to get all of the 3 final slashes. It's really important for you to try to get these defensive assists on the final slashes because this one trigger a stun on Miasma Priest as soon as you finish doing all defensive assists. After this, Miasma Priest still has a 4th and last phase before going into the middle of the arena and triggering the Miasma phase. However, most of the time, I don't trigger this 4th phase because as soon as you deal enough damage to Miasma Priest, it's going to jump in the middle of the arena and start the Miasma Shield. The Miasma Shield, Miasma phase, is just basically doing all of the phase attacks towards you, no aggressive general attacks in between. So it's going to jump in the middle, use the first phase attacks, you know, the dash towards you, and then it's going to teleport again, use the explosion on the ground, and then it's going to repeat again, but this time going to do the relentless combo that I mentioned before. Just like before, you can also keep spamming your swap button and get a lot of performance points, not to mention that you are going to deplete the Miasma Shield really fast by doing this. Okay, so try to get the Miasma Shield depleted by the end of the 3rd phase here once again, otherwise it's just going to teleport and do the 4th phase that I mentioned before. The 4th phase is just an explosion around Miasma Priest, okay? That's all Miasma Priest is going to do. Now, one thing that is really important for you to keep in mind is that when you trigger the purified state, you know, you depleted the Miasma Shield, you're going to trigger a huge damage on them, and you're also going to regenerate a lot of energy. So during the Miasma phase, feel free to spend a lot of your energy without a single problem. You are free to do it because you're going to regenerate a lot of it, if not everything, as soon as the Miasma Shield is over, okay? The problem is that you're not going to find a lot of windows for you to spend your EX special, your energy overall, but if you happen to find it, feel free to do it because it's free energy for you anyway. And then after this, the fight just repeats itself again, so that's all you need to keep in mind, okay? Outside of this, it's just understanding your team composition, understanding the enemy patterns as well, enemy attacks, so you can keep dodging and getting good scores right here, okay? For team compositions, as I said before, crit-based agents are going to perform really well here. This means that, for example, Yi Xuan is going to be, of course, the best agent for you to use right here. Yi Xuan can work, but the problem with Yi Xuan is that, as I said before, regarding the buffs, you're going to have some problems with burst DPS units, at least here on this rotation of Deadly Assault. You could definitely try to go for on-field Yi-1 using Nicole and Astra, for example, but the problem is you're having 2 evasive assist units on your team. This is really bad for the performance points, for the overall cleans of the Miasma Shield as well. So my recommendation is try to get a really good crit-based agent and also try to have at the very least 2 defensive assist units on your team. The second boss fight that you're going to have this rotation is Marionette, a classic fight that is around here since the 1.4. This is going to be a really neutral fight, unlike Miasma Priest, for example, which kind of punishes you if you decide to go for anomaly units. Marionette is a kind of okay-ish for everything. The reason why I say it's okay-ish is because of the clones mechanic. You know, during the fight, Marionette is going to keep spawning a lot of different clones to attack with them. And the thing is that you kind of need to destroy these clones because you get a damage buff, you reduce the damage that you take from them, and you also get performance points whenever you do this. The problem here is that anomaly units, usually they are going to rely quite a lot on dealing damage through the use of anomalies. And the clones are going to appear really fast, it's not going to stay long enough on the field, so it means that if you can't deal enough damage to them, you're going to struggle getting performance points, stacking some extra damage as well. Honestly, I would say that this is another fight which is better for you to use a more crit-based raw damage unit instead of an anomaly unit. Marionette is weak to ice and ether, and this time we're getting the ice damage and the electric damage variation of Marionette. This means that, of course, the best attributes for you to use on this fight is going to be ice, the second best one is going to be ether, the last one is going to be electric. All of these three attributes, they have some advantage here because of all the buffs and enemy weakness as well. It's really important for you to keep in mind that this buff resets once the stun phase is over. Try to use all of your resources during the stun window or before the stun window so you can maximize the use of these ice damage buff. Another really important point when it comes to destroying clones is that destroying clones also increases the stun duration on Marionette. If you can't destroy a single clone and you just end up focusing on stunning, then you're going to get a really short stun duration, and this can be really bad for your stun damage, for your burst rotation. Even if you're playing non-ice or electric damage, I highly recommend to keep destroying the clones because it's 3 points for you and also makes it really easy for you to deal with the whole fight because Marionette is insanely aggressive, probably one of the hardest fights when it comes to managing dodges and everything. If you have Caesar, for example, I highly recommend to use Caesar right here because it's going to make it easier for you to not get punished by some aggressive combos, which sometimes you can't even get out of it. The most important mechanic here is to get used to the dodge windows during the invulnerability phase. Marionette is going to jump in the middle of the arena and is going to throw a total of 5 clones towards you. If you manage to get all of the clones skilled, you're going to get a total of 1000 points. It's really, really good. I highly recommend you to get used to the dodge timing right here and get all of these points. Outside of this, it's just about understanding and getting used to the enemy patterns. Not so much to talk about it here. It's just a really aggressive fight, and you need to get used to this. When it comes to team building, as I said, ice units are going to be the best option for you right here. And this means that, for example, Miyabi, Ellen, and even Sokaku as a DPS can work pretty well right here. You can see here that I'm trying my best to use Sokaku DPS, but if you want to see a really good clear, huge shout out, Second Logic, they managed to get a solo Sokaku 3-star clear, which was like insane. I'm going to leave the link in the description so you can watch this clear if you want to understand a little bit of Sokaku DPS as well. Sokaku work as a DPS, it's really, really good, especially if you own her Mindscape 6. Outside of ice units, you can of course use ether DPS units such as Yi Xuan without a problem right here. And you can also go for more electric DPS units such as Soldier MB, which has a really, really good dodge counter. You can use Harumasa, especially because Harumasa, you're also going to level up his dodge. The problem here is that you're probably going to need to play Harumasa as a more sustained DPS unit instead of a burst DPS unit, because as I said before, buffs are not that good for burst DPS units. At least this time right here, you don't need to worry too much about having 3 defensive assists or anything. It's just about dealing damage and try to benefit from these buffs. Okay, so ice is the best one, ether the second one, and lastly we have electric taking an advantage here on this fight. Finally, the classic notorious Pompey. I hate this guy, it's a pain in the... The reason why is because to get performance points, you need to do perfect assist. This means, you know, evasive or defensive assist. And all you get from doing defensive assist or chain attacks, for example, is some crit damage against Pompey. I really don't like it. Now, despite only getting crit damage, this fight is actually quite good for anomaly units. Maybe the exception here being Piper because of how aggressive Pompey is. It has some really heavy hitting attacks. It's not like really fast or relentless combo, unlike Marionettes or Miasma Priest. Pompey has really slow attacks, which is somewhat easy for you to dodge. Okay, so try to get used to his attack animations, try to understand the rotation he's going to use. Okay, it's really easy for you to predict what kind of attack they're going to use and just dodge properly. Sadly, this boss fight, honestly, we don't have a lot of things to talk about. It's just about understanding the movements, trying to dodge as much as you can, and finding a really good team to play against it. One thing that I really hate on Pompey is that after you get around 18,000 points, Pompey is going to jump in the middle of the arena or do a heavy attack on you, which is going to start the spinning phase. Pompey gets like invulnerable for around 10 seconds, and it feels really bad, especially if you're like really tight and almost getting the 20,000 points. If Pompey starts the spinning move right at the end, your final 10 seconds, goodbye, 3 stars, it's just going to be a restart. Because of this invulnerability phase, you just can't deal damage at all to Pompey, and it feels really, really bad. So basically, just try to get used to the enemy attacks, try to dodge as much as you can. Defensive assist works, but Pompey attacks quite a lot, so unless you're using Caesar, Sokaku, or these units that can trigger defensive assist using only 1 assist points, chances are you're going to run out of assist points and you can't parry all of their attacks, okay? So honestly, I think that most of the time it's better for you to just keep focusing on dealing damage instead of using defensive assist. Because defensive assist most of the time is going to be really slow, it's not going to give you enough damage. And that is sad, this rotation is bad for burst damage units. So even if you get a really good stun window, what's the point if your stun window is going to perform somewhat bad? When it comes to team compositions, of course, fire units are going to take the advantage here. If it's a crit-based agent, even better. So, for example, Evelyn can work pretty well here. The problem with Evelyn is that you're going to need to play her as a more on-field DPS because of the lack of good buffs for Evelyn. Interrupt is going to be a really good one, not to mention that whenever you use a chain attack, you're going to increase the crit damage they take. So yeah, it's a good unit to use right here. The problem is that the burst window is going to suffer a little bit because of the lack of good buffs. You could also use Soldier 11, of course. Burnies is a really good unit if you're planning to play around anomalies, because every single time that you apply burn to them, it's going to stagger Pompey a little bit. They're going to stay for around 2 seconds without doing anything, and this is really good for you. It gives some breathing room and makes it easier for you, for example, to play Piper and spin a little bit during these 2 seconds. Jane, Vivian, Jane, Burnies are also really good. You can still just benefit from all the aggressive attacks and keep dodging Pompey and get some extra damage using your Jane, using whatever unit you're planning to use that benefits from dodge counters. So yeah, this should be everything regarding Deadly Assault, and honestly, I know that both Marionette and Pompey didn't have a lot of game mechanics, a lot of tips for you besides just get used to the fight, but sadly, it is what it is. These boss fights, they don't have a lot of mechanics. These are way more DPS checks than Miasma Priest. Miasma Priest feels really good because probably the easiest fight out of these 3, because at least it has a lot of mechanics that you can play around and try to maximize your damage, maximize your performance points, unlike both Marionette and Pompey. I hope my clears in the background could give you a little bit of idea of how to approach these fights. Despite not being really good fights, I just used some low-cost teams. And remember that if you're struggling with Deadly Assault, you can always join my Discord server, send a question over there, ask for help regarding team compositions, what teams you can use, how to approach builds. I'm way more active on my Discord than the YouTube comment section. And if you're still struggling against the Miasma shield, I highly recommend checking out this video that is going to appear on your screen, because on this video I talk about everything regarding Miasma, how it works, how it affects your damage, and how you can deal with it so you can get a more easy fight against Miasma Priest, okay? So thank you so much for watching this video. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.